What's up, martial arts fanatics? Welcome back. As always, I'm Coach Greg, and today we're doing another Q&A. As always, if you do have your questions, please go to the link in the description below. Send me your question, and I will do my best to answer it. Today, I'm answering the question of, can you describe the different types of kickboxing and what these all are? And it's a great question because it's very confusing. There's a lot of different types. I don't know all the specifics on all of these. I'm going to kind of gloss over what I do know about them because every organization has its own thing, right? They all have their own rule sets and it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But if there's something I'm not like 100% on, feel free to add your own descriptions in the comments below, guys. But this is my understanding of what these are. And I mostly think about it in terms of what I can expect out of the guy I'm fighting. If the guy tells me this is what he does, this is the impression it puts in my mind, okay? So let's start at the beginning. American kickboxing, this is what I kind of grew up with in the 80s and early 90s. Before we had the UFC, this is what we had, right? We had guys in American flag pants, and man, this is where you had Benny the Jet, Bill Superfoot Wallace. Really great, exciting matches came in that era. But it was, there's no kicking below the waist. There's nothing but kicks and punches. There's no knees, no elbows, none of that stuff. It's boxing with roundhouse kicks mostly. You would see some side kicks and stuff like that, but it was mostly boxing with roundhouse kicks. Let's see. Another big style that you hear people refer to a lot is Dutch style kickboxing. Guys like Bas Rutten are really known for this because it's very popularized, obviously, in the Netherlands. Very boxing heavy. Most of those guys seem to be very much emphasizing the boxing. You can do kicking to all levels. You can do knees. You can elbow if both people agree to it, but most of what I've seen out of those guys, if somebody tells me they do Dutch kickboxing, that tells me you're going to see a good boxing game supplemented by kicking rather than some of the other kickboxing arts where you could be a little bit more focused on the kicking game. And a lot of those guys go into it because maybe their boxing game wasn't good enough to go pro boxing. Okay. Japanese kickboxing, I don't really know much about Japanese kickboxing, and I don't know if it distinguishes from K1. Because in my mind, if you say Japanese kickboxing, I just think K1, all right? K1 kickboxing is not really its own style of kickboxing. It's actually just an organization that became very popular. And because of its popularity, a lot of people have modeled their rule sets after K1. So K1, you had great guys coming out of there. That's where you had your Mirko Krokops with that nasty roundhouse kick of his. You have your Ernesto Hoost, you have your Andy Hug, and of course his notorious axe kick. Very, very powerful kicking guys came out of there. But really, you had good balance fighters, like just great organization, 3-minute rounds, very dynamic, very exciting fighters. So when I think about Japanese kickboxing, I think about K1, and that's what I associate it with, is that organization of that era of kickboxing. In that you could kick, you could kick to all levels, that is, punching, of course, you could throw knees, you could not throw elbows, and you could not do takedowns, you could not catch kicks. And I believe that, so I want to mention this because a lot of people ask about like Glory versus K1. I don't know a ton of the differences. They're just different organizations. I think they're pretty similar. I think the only real difference is like Glory, I believe you can catch kicks, whereas K1 you couldn't. And there's no standing 8 count in Glory. Or did I have that right? Yeah, I think Glory doesn't have a standing 8 count. But they're so similar that they're just different organizations. It was obvious that Glory did a lot to model themselves after K1. And so that's kind of what you could expect out of Glory. But once again, these are not styles of kickboxing, but I mention them because these organizations are kind of significant when you talk about like what kickboxing can mean to different people. Okay. From there, of course, you have Muay Thai. Big names like Baka, Sanchai, guys like that. Samart Payakarun, all those guys. Muay Thai, I think most people at this point know what it is. It's probably the most practiced striking art in MMA at this point. It's growing in popularity, but it's never going to reach what Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu has done. But very, very effective. In Thailand, I think there's something like 60,000 professional athletes who do it. But of course, everybody kind of knows it. Even if you don't watch MMA, if you've seen Ong Bak, you know what Muay Thai is, right? You have your boxing, you can kick to all levels, leg kicking, very known for a good leg kicking game and leg checking game. Clinches are allowed, you can throw knees, elbows. The clinches are all designed to set up striking, not just dirty boxing kind of stuff, but of course throwing your elbows, having your tie plum clinches, set this kind of stuff and turning them. You can do takedowns in Muay Thai, but it's limited to mostly trips, and you can't really do anything off of it. You take them down if the opportunity presents itself. It does, I guess, help scoring, but other than that, like, you can't really capitalize on it. So you can catch a kick and take somebody down, but that's where it ends. Sanda is kind of the same thing. You can take somebody down, but my understanding is you can also do wrestling takedowns, freestyle wrestling takedowns, judo takedowns, like all that kind of stuff. You just, once again, can't capitalize on it. Like, you take them down and then they reset you. But other than that, it's mostly the same. Savate is kickboxing. I believe that the rule set is very similar to American style kickboxing, but the only difference is you can wear shoes. And I don't know why the French want to wear shoes, but whatever, that's their thing. So those guys tend to be very, very good kickers, very powerful kickers. Lethwei is a style I don't know a ton about. My understanding is you can kind of hit them with whatever you want, including headbutts. But I don't follow it. I don't know anybody who does it. I just kind of have a rough outline in my mind of what it is. And I might have seen some like YouTube videos on it or something like that, but I don't follow it. Glory we already talked about because it's very similar to K1. And then of course you have your more traditional arts like karate and taekwondo. Whether you consider them to be kickboxing or not is really subjective. I kind of don't, because yeah, they do have their striking arts, but that doesn't necessarily make them kickboxing. You know, in Kumite, I think there are there are karate organizations that are more similar to it. For example, Karate Combat is more similar to a kickboxing organization than it is to like a traditional Kumite, where you wear the gi, you don't have any gloves, but you can only punch to the body and you can kick to all levels, leg, head, body, and all that stuff. No knees or elbows or anything like that. So I mean, whether or not you consider traditional karate to be kickboxing or not, it's subjective. You know, you can make the same argument for Taekwondo, where it's obviously mostly focused on light, touchy kicks. You know, modern Taekwondo, I don't know. I don't want to get a whole thing on my thoughts on modern Taekwondo because I have ADHD and I'll go into non-secular. But you know, kicking to all levels, or excuse me, kicking above the waist, can't kick to the back, can't kick below the waist, and punching to the body is all that's allowed in Taekwondo. And the only thing you can score with is reverse punch. Let's see. That's pretty much it. I do, you know, if we're talking about the traditional stuff, I do want to kind of point about like Karate Combat League. What I kind of like is that I like the rule set for that. I want to start watching it more, and this is why I kind of did a non sequitur back to it. I like the ring style with that pit style ring. I like how you can keep fighting with your back at this like 30-degree incline or whatever, and that if you take somebody down, you can ground and pound for up to 5 seconds. That's cool. I like that they've added that element in so that they have a reason to do takedowns and that there is a value added there, but then they stand them up so they don't turn into just MMA to distinguish it. But you know, you're starting to see some big names starting to pop up in that. I think I just saw a thing that in December it was a rematch of Benson Henderson versus Anthony Pettis, but under that rule set. So I might go back and try to watch that because I do like that league. I just haven't been following it in the same way that I like Bellator. I just don't ever follow it, right? I just have too much to watch. It's like the opposite problem I had growing up where like you had to go to the local video store and scrounge for whatever you could find. And now it's like there's so much to watch. I don't have time. I wish I did. It'd be amazing. Anyway, so I hope that answers your question and gives you kind of a brief outline of the different styles of kickboxing. There's probably a bunch I haven't mentioned. Both styles that are very similar to kickboxing rules or organizations. You know, there's a ton of organizations. Everybody's got their own rule set. These are just kind of, I would say the big ones to note are, of course, you know, K1 and Glory are the two big ones that people know about, so it's worth mentioning. But anyway, I hope I answered your question, kind of, and thanks for watching.